No, well, but they meet all the time. In fact, if anybody was paying attention over the past decade, the past 10 to 12 years, the two of them met with each other more than they met with any other world leaders. So they have had a very strong partnership, a very strong friendship. And this historically, a lot of people didn't think that this relationship with Russia and China was going to go anywhere because they thought, again, historically, there was too much animosity, long simmering tensions between the two nations. But actually, what we have seen is a new partnership between the two of them that, again, this is something that people like me were watching for the past decade. And I think too much of the groupthink in Washington sort of blew this off and didn't think that it was a real partnership. Now we know, in one of the last meetings that the two of them had together, Xi Jinping said, and I'm paraphrasing, that there's going to be a change in the world order that the world hasn't seen in 100 years. And that's essentially what he said. He was obviously talking about this in the context not only of Russia invading Ukraine, as they have done so and waged war for the past 20 months, but who knows what else Xi Jinping was referring to. We do know that he has ordered his military, the PLA, to be ready for an incursion, for some sort of military incursion over Taiwan by 2027. And I would remind you, amongst everything that's going on in the Middle East, who supplies Russia with the suicide drones and with a lot of the technical equipment, military hardware that hurts Ukrainian civilians? It's Iran. And so the Biden administration's policy towards Iran has done nothing but undermine their own policy towards Russia. And now, of course, we see the attacks that have been enabled due to the $80 billion that Iran has received over the past 3 years.
Yeah, and you talk about the relationship, Morgan. China and Russia, for example, just a few examples here. Trade has grown 30% this year. More than a third of Russian oil exports end up heading over to China. Half of the cars in Russia right now come from China. What does all this mean for Israel as these two meet?
You know, historically, Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister, actually has had a relationship with Russia. When you start to look around what's going on in the region, you had the Syrian civil war for 10 years. And Israel was very much active in hitting targets in Syria, especially Iranian targets. They always sort of told us, hey, listen, we're keeping this relationship with Putin because we need to be able to take action against Iran and Syria. There also are a lot of Jewish Russians who have immigrated to Israel. So while we haven't always loved the relationship, there has been one there. Israel did start to have some economic relationship with China. That's something during the Trump administration under Mike Pompeo that we really held a firm line with them and said, listen, this is a non-starter. Like, you guys can't buddy up with the Chinese Communist Party. And so that relationship has been much more distant. But I would say that there is I just spoke about this in New Hampshire, actually, over the weekend. There's a new axis of terror, axis of evil, if you want to use George W. Bush's old line back in the early 2000s, and that is Iran, Russia, and China teaming up. You have people that don't want democracy that are teaming up against us.